Okay, so in science, we have been talking about traits, and we talked about two kinds of traits in the last couple weeks. One was genetic traits and one was acquired traits. So remember, genetic traits are those things that you are born with. You get them from your parents, your eye color, your skin color, how tall you're going to be. And then we have things like acquired traits, and those are things that you develop over life. Scars, the things that you're able to do like walking, running, writing, reading. But the thing about traits is that things like acquired traits, they can really be influenced and infected by the environment around us. So for example, if you live in an environment that's really cold and snowy all of the time, you're probably going to need to learn how to ski or to use snowshoes to get around. Now, but if you live near the ocean in a really warm area, you're probably going to be able to swim really well. The environment changed the traits that those people developed. Like, let's take a look at me. I'm a teacher, right? I wasn't born a teacher. I wasn't even born with the desire to be a teacher, but I went to school. I learned that I really loved some of my teachers that I had in school, and I loved working with kids. And so I went to college, and I found that I liked what I was doing in college, and I became a teacher. That's now one of the traits that I have is that I am a teacher, that I teach. Think about a trait that you have that maybe you weren't born with. I bet you could think that maybe being able to roller skate. We have a roller skating rink in town. Not every town has one, so not all students can roller skate. So we're going to take a look at some traits that animals and plants have developed that have really been changed because of the environment that they live in. Let's take a look at ladybugs. So up here, you're going to see ladybugs. Ladybugs are a type of beetle, and they get their traits from their parents just like you and I, but they come in lots of shapes and sizes and colors. Some ladybugs have spots, some do not. Some ladybugs, actually many animals will change depending on where they live. So there are some ladybugs that eat other smaller pests. You might even find ladybugs that don't eat any bugs at all, just plants. It really depends on where they live and what food is available. And because of that, ladybugs can really look different and act different depending on where you're at. Now, ladybugs are only one species that's learned to live in different areas. There are lots and lots of species from all over the world that have changed to better match their environment. So for example, in this island, so here is an island right here, a tiny little circle. It's called the Galapagos Island. It's in the Pacific Ocean. There's a bird called a common finch, and it has changed over a long time to have a different shaped beak based on whatever type of food is available. So now there are actually 14 different kinds of finches on this island, and they all have different beaks that allows them to eat different food. Again, the environment where they lived and what's around them shapes their traits. Flamingos. Have you ever wondered why a flamingo is pink? It's not because they inherited it from their parents. That's not a genetic trait. Flamingos are actually pink because of the food they eat. And not all flamingos are pink. Some are orange or pink or white. What happens is that flamingos really like to eat shrimp, and the chemicals in the shrimp, the algae or the crustaceans that they eat, get deposited into their feathers and gives them that really unique coloring. Again, the environment, the food around them is what shaped that trait. The environment can affect living organisms in other ways. Think about pets. I don't know about you, but I have seen some pets who are really, really big, who have become maybe a little overweight even. And that's because they get lots of food and they probably don't exercise too much. Or plants that would probably normally grow really, really tall don't grow as well because they don't get enough water. And those would be the plants that you might see in Mrs. Gillen's house. When a plant or an animal is born, their DNA comes from their parents. This DNA tells them what color they're going to be, what their color shell will be, their feathers will be, their skin, the shape of the leaf of the plant or the animal might have. But after it's born, the environment might change these traits just a little bit. Little water, little food, too much food, chemicals, nutrients can all change how traits develop. So think about identical twins. Identical twins have the exact same DNA as each other. They grow up in the exact same environment. And their choices affect the traits that they have, okay? So look at these two babies. They have the same hair color, same shape of eyes, same mouth, same nose, approximately the same body shape and weight. Let's say the baby on the right loves to go outside and gets a lot of exercise throughout his childhood. The baby on the left loves to stay inside and read. He doesn't exercise as much as his brother. By the time these twins are adults, there's probably going to be some differences between them. For example, the one that goes outside a lot might have lighter hair color and a darker skin color. Or their experiences and exercises might mean a difference in weight or in the way that they express things. So those experiences are going to shape the traits that they have. Plants, just like animals, plants are dependent on the environment. So some ways that the plants are dependent on the environment is really one big way is for seed dispersal. Plants need to be able to send their seeds to different areas so that they can make new plants. And this happens a lot with the environment. For example, animals, insects, the wind, the rain, all can help spread seeds to new locations. But if any of these things aren't available, the plants can't pass on their genes to their offspring. There's a special type of tree in Yellowstone National Park that produces cones that are covered in a really hard glue-like resin. Only fire is hot enough to melt it and release the seed inside of it. This plant is so dependent on the environment because it has to have those wildfires come to release the trait or the seed so it can pass on its trait. If the environment would change where fire did not happen and they could not release the seed, then that type of plant could actually become extinct if there's no way to get it out. Chemicals can have some effects on inherited traits. Think about this. With pollution, chemicals and pollution can affect living organisms by causing some genetic mutations. What that means is that it can cause the way that the traits to kind of come out of you. So if you look at that fish, normally this fish had 2 eyes. But it was exposed to a type of chemical, and then what happens is that when they're exposed to this chemical, some of the fish were born with only a single eye. And then they would pass that trait onto its offspring. Temperature can even affect traits. Temperature affects Himalayan rabbits in a similar way. So if the rabbits grow up in a really, really cold temperature, they're going to have a dark toe and dark nose. Rabbits who grow up in a warmer temperature are going to be completely white. And it's because the darker fur happens where the animals lose most of their body heat. Darker fur leads to warmer fur because dark colors attract the sun. So if you live in a colder area, you would want the darker fur to attract more sun and get more heat. And then light can even have an effect on traits. So light can change something. So for example, caterpillars. It can affect how caterpillars' wings are colored. Redder light produces much more brighter colored wings than other colors. So boys and girls, there are traits all around that can be changed by the environment that we live in. It just depends on what they is. It might change the beak style they have so they can eat specific foods. It might change the color of their body so they can live in a certain environment successfully. It might change the things they're really good at. The environment just changes both acquired and genetic traits in different ways.